All right, so welcome back to the Talk Anime podcast. Forever in hiatus, but now back because Noob here finally got his shit together. And
Yeah, it was all me. Sure.
finally got his shit together, so now we can start. What was the name of the show we were supposed to watch? I can never pronounce it.
Saikano.
Saikano. So Saikano has been put on just hold until next week. That way we can both, refinish it because there's been a problem with us finishing anime around here.
Well,
Um,
not me. There's been a problem with you finishing anime.
well, I think we should take equal share in the blame since this is a joint collaboration. So,
Yeah, like we can both equally blame you for it.
but anyways, this week we are doing My Hero Academia, or the Boku no Hero, as the weebs like to call it. This anime is a very long anime. It's the longest one we've done so far. Actually, at 4 seasons right now, and 2 movies.
And two movies.
Yeah, and of course the manga and all that. So, but anyways, we'll just jump right into the intro. No more to dilly dally around. So My Hero originally was a manga, of course, in Shonen Jump, and it was written by how do you pronounce his name?
Um,
Kohi
I know his last name is
Kohi
like Koi Horikoshi.
Horikoshi, that's it. That's how I hear people say it. Horikoshi, yeah. Horikoshi's a cool guy, and it's an anime series with anime movies. It does have a spin-off, My Hero Academia Vigilantes, which is also a really great manga, and hopefully they'll do an anime of eventually. But with all of that said, I mean, not much to say. If you don't know My Hero, you probably don't know shit, so um, we'll just jump right into overall impressions. We're covering 4 seasons here, so it's a lot of information to cover. I mean, I'm just going to throw it over to you. Where do you want to start this conversation since we had a lot of debate about, what all we wanted to cover and how we're going to go about it. So,
Well, I said what I was going to say earlier for overall impressions, which is if you haven't watched this show, go watch it.
yeah.
That's my overall impressions. Uh, whenever you want, we can I mean, you can give what you want on your overall impressions, but I don't think we have any disagreement on this.
Yeah.
Uh, you wanted to start on the
Well,
different seasons, right?
I mean, we'll just kind of do just a basic synopsis and we can kind of go through how we want. So, the summary, I'll just read that. So, it's a story set in modern day, except people have special powers called quirks. And it's a really common thing in the world, but there's a lot of chaos and confusion. So pro heroes rose, and that's the whole theme: is that heroes are fighting the villains. And the story follows fucking Ori. I can't say his name.
Midoriya.
Midori, who is a quirkless loser and the worst main character of Shonen. He has no powers, and then he bitches and cries and gets powers. And the story follows him trying to become worth a damn and become a great hero.
So immediately starting out, I 100% disagree with you on Midoriya being a bad main character. I typically don't like shonen main characters. I've voiced several times before. I don't like Naruto as a main character because I feel like he's too much of a good guy. I don't like Goku as a main character. I typically don't like most shonen main characters, but something about Midoriya just works.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because he's far from perfect, and while he is trying to be better, he's not automatically just portrayed as this perfect ideal human being that we should all aspire to be. He's aspiring to be like everybody else, and then he ends up inspiring everybody else to want to be more like him. So I think that dynamic of him as a character works.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just kind of going to the overall story, which is, kind of where the impression comes from. To me, the story overall is a good story. It's a good shonen. I don't know if it does anything uniquely special that makes it superior to than other shonens. It definitely does a lot of things right. It has a lot of character development from individual characters. Well, I say character development, but I mean, story and characters, when we go breaking in detail to all the individual characters, the characters really are the only thing that matters in this show, which is fine, but they don't develop as much as I would want as a viewer in this type of anime. I think for shonen as a genre, character development is the most important thing, and if you don't see a lot of character development, then what's the fucking point? And
in this type of show, typically, like we're seeing like an evolution of shonen. So this show has far more character development than what you would have seen in shonen in the past, where each character kind of fell into like a trope or something. So I
I
think
mean,
for the
there's a
amount of episodes
lot
that
of
they've had
tropey
so far,
characters.
like the amount of like they couldn't develop every character because there's too many of them. You're talking about trying to develop maybe one character every few episodes at that point. But the characters, the main cast anyway, I do think they have gotten a good bit of character development at this point, considering we're
Well,
still pretty early on in the story.
my thing is, I'm going to be very critical of this show more than any other shows that we've talked about, primarily because most of the shows we've covered have been 12 episodes. This has been 88 episodes, and some of those 12 episode animes I felt had more character development. And to me, I mean, there's definitely been character development throughout the series, but when that's the main focus of the show, sometimes I just feel like the characters aren't really doing anything and everything's just kind of going from A to B. I mean, in the overall impressions here, what would you say was your favorite story arc so far? And if you need reference,
Oh
there's
man, that is so tough. That is tough.
okay.
I
Well,
just love
okay.
everything about this
Well,
show.
let's
So
just
I'm gonna say my overall favorite story arc would be all like well yeah we've already both seen the show, so it's not really spoiling anything. But yeah, All Might versus All for One.
yeah. So, I mean,
It was more than a fight. It was like that entire arc leading up to it, finding out more about All Might's backstory, and then we'll get into that later. But I felt like getting a character like especially for him, like for most of the show up to that point, just kind of being the mentor type of figure, but not really taking the spotlight. I felt like they did a good job of, making him center stage and really focusing on him and building into what made him the hero he was. And it kind of plays really well into all the stuff that comes after that.
yeah. Well, I mean, for me, the reason that got me engaged in the show, season one does a pretty good job with, introducing the character. You kind of care about him. He's a little whiny bitch, and he still is a whiny bitch, even in the manga to this day, and even all the way up to episode 88 that we've seen. So, I mean, for me, he's not changed at all as a character. He's not learned any lessons. He's not done anything that has really challenged who he is as a person. And I feel like that is the biggest fault with the overall story to me. Um,
But the show is self-aware about it. You have All Might pointing out to him all the time that you kind of cry a little too much, and
Well, I
Bakugo
mean
kind of points it out
that's
too.
the
And
point. They're in school and they're supposed to be learning and getting better. My thing is, you don't really get the idea that they're learning or getting better.
you kind of do.
I don't feel that way. The
Like
biggest,
you remember
Mm,
when like Midoriya has like because Midoriya he starts out wanting to just be All Might. He's like I'm gonna be exactly like All Might, and then he realizes like All Might is like physically far different than he is, and hey, if I can't use my arms, maybe I should use my legs. That moment of brilliance just kind of like evolved the show to the next level because you were thinking, oh my goodness, it's going to eventually come to some shonen crap where he unlocks some miracle power that like allows him to do all this amazing stuff that he wasn't able to do before. But no, they stick to their guns on that. Like
okay.
Midoriya, he gets injured constantly throughout the show, and those injuries stick with him and they change how he fights. They also change how he thinks about situations and stuff. So I felt like every like Midoriya's character in general, I think is more interesting because they do so much differently than what you see in your typical shonen.
Yeah, I mean, well, let's just kind of wrap up overall impressions because, like you said, we didn't really want to stick on that much, and the main focus of this really is just the story and the characters, which is
Yeah.
one of our categories anyway. Overall impression, though, I mean, I think it is, in general, a decent shonen. I think the music is pretty epic. They have some really good songs in it, and the animation is pretty good in some of the major fight scenes. But I don't know, at least in this point in the discussion and my feelings of this show, it's not something that I'm dying for the next season for. Maybe it's because
I'm dying.
I've
I'm
read
dying.
the manga.
I'm dead inside for that next season.
I'm not. I mean, I watched it on a weekly basis. Which another thing is this anime versus the other ones. All the other animes are ones that we watched, in a day or a week or so, most for like one season. This is a show that comes out on a weekly fucking basis that you would either wait for the episodes to build up and watch them all in a row, or you watch them weekly. I know you like to let them build up and watch them. I just watch them weekly, and really that weekly wait and it just gets drawn on. There was weeks I would just forget an episode came out. That's how low stakes I was in watching this, because I'm like, I'll just catch up to it later. And maybe that's the drag. Maybe watching it all in a row is the best way to watch this show. But overall, I mean, it's a good show, but it's not something that's, I'm thinking, going to be like a legendary show that everyone should watch. That's all I'm going to say for now before we get into final discussions. Maybe as we talk more about it, our opinions can sway a little bit, or we could look at other things, think about other things. But with that, we're just going to jump deep into the story and characters, and you can pretty much start this wherever you want, whatever characters you want to start with, or what part of the story you want to, start it with.
Like you said, the show is about the character, so I guess before we go into the story, we could go a little bit more into why I think this show works in general, and it is because the show does so much different than what normal shonen does with their characters. Just to compare it to something like Naruto, it took over 100 episodes for any character other than Naruto or Sasuke to get any character development, in my opinion. This show does it in the first 30 episodes.
I would disagree with that. I mean, Hinata has a big character revelation in the first few seasons of Naruto.
No. I don't remember much about Hinata. Period. Until like almost Shippuden.
Sakura and Ino have.
This is about my hero.
They have major character. I'm saying they have major character changes. Neji, one of the biggest character changes. He changes who he is as a person. Gaara, major. These are all within the first few seasons. So,
but I felt like My Hero really does make every character pretty much central, to
I'm saying the first 80 episodes of Naruto.
Despite I don't know where you got the idea that this didn't focus much on character development, because
it focuses on characters.
This show gave you enough about each character to make you want to know more about.
Listen,
even the villains. The villains were actually more interesting than a lot of the main characters.
It focuses on characters, but you learn about the characters. But having a character and learning about the character is not the same as learning about the character and then that character developing to a different point. The only developments,
pretty much every character that's had any involvement in the plot so far has had some character evolution.
I would say that's
even
not true.
not just Midoriya, but Bakugo. And I guess Bakugo is kind of almost as much of a main character as Midoriya. You see Bakugo go from being this cocky, loud, arrogant, musclehead to a cocky, loud, arrogant musclehead with just a little bit more sympathy and empathy for other characters in the show. Now, personality-wise, a lot of the characters don't change, but I feel like personality is, while it's a big part of the character, it's not all of that character. Their motivations and stuff need to evolve with their experiences too.
All right. Well,
so
let me tell you, this might be a controversial statement, so I just gotta preface it with that. But Chad in Bleach has more character development than any fucking character.
Piss off.
In
Piss off.
Show.
Piss the
I'm
fuck
sorry. Off. He does.
No.
He does.
No.
He does. He does.
No.
He does. Yes.
Baku, and not to mention one other thing this show has is humor.
No.
Characters you don't think would be that funny are genuinely funny in the show.
I've never
Bakugo, while he's super serious and stuff, he has a lot of funny moments. You remember when he called, when they were asking for them to come up with their hero names? Bakugo comes up with the name Lord Explosion Murder.
Yeah,
I was cracking up when he said that.
Bakugo's character is really stupid. He says a lot of stupid shit. He's a stupid character, a dumb character.
No, he's a great character.
And you talked about these characters not having tropes. Every single one of these characters is as tropey anime as they can get. And you're full of shit if you think otherwise.
I do think otherwise. I can't imagine any of them really falling right in line with any
Every
trope.
single
They,
one
like
of
you,
them.
they on the surface level.
Okay.
If you're just looking at the surface level,
Okay.
yeah, then maybe they could fall into
All
a
right,
trope.
wait.
But each character goes so much deeper than
Childhood
that.
friend character is definitely there.
Who's the childhood friend character?
I mean, fucking what's her name? Gravity bitch. I don't even know her name.
He met her the first day of school.
It doesn't matter. She's still that same trope.
No, she's not. No.
Yes, she is.
No,
she is.
no,
she
no,
is.
no,
she is.
no.
Class president
No.
trope, definitely there. Cool guy that everyone likes.
Are you kidding me?
Definitely there.
Are you talking about Momo?
What?
Momo is more than just class president.
No, fucking what's his name? Fucking the fast guy. Ida.
Tenya?
Yeah, Tenya.
He's
Yeah, he's the fucking class representative. Fuck off.
No,
if you disagree.
No,
we got the pervert character, fucking Mineta, of course.
Mineta's more than a pervert.
And then the other characters are literally just background characters that are just fucking there.
How dare you say that about Sue?
She's a fucking background character.
No.
Yes.
Sue is best girl.
Trash character.
I'm gonna go ahead and call it now. Sue is the ultimate waifu of this show. She is literally the background on my cell phone.
That's very fucking sad.
She's like the best character I've seen in an anime.
So many other better waifus
in decades.
And you choose the dumbest, ugliest, stupid fucking character in all of anime. I'm saying
no,
right
she's like the most adorable character in this entire show.
Anime characters are not supposed to be adorable.
And yet Sue somehow pulls it off.
It's stupid.
Not to mention she's overpowered. She's like crazy overpowered. She's got one of the best quirks in the entire show.
We're talking about Class A. I mean, Class 1A.
Sue is in Class A.
I know. I'm just saying in general, but we're talking about these characters and their development. Like, there's too many characters, and they don't all get individual development. Only certain characters do, which the amount of characters that get any type of development, it's not significant enough to actually make a significant character change to any of them.
Like, how's it not?
Like, Deku is the only character that has a significant development. Tenya has a little bit of development when his brother gets like killed or whatever, or injured severely,
and he learns what it means to be a hero.
Yeah, and then
I would call that significant character development.
Bakugo gets a little bit of character development with his whole like, you know, getting kidnapped and, you know, learning fucking Deku's secret, and then Todoroki, he's like getting over his dad. Like, fucking who cares? Why do I need a daddy issue character? But those are the only characters that have had character development.
It's more than daddy issues, and you know, by the end of it,
I can't think of
at least where we are. And I know you want to go through like, you know, season by season. We'll get there. Todoroki starts out as like this guy who just hates his dad.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I'm not gonna use this half of my body because, you know, it's associated with my dad, and my mom was this. And then by the end of it, he learns that his dad is plus mother flipping ultra.
But yeah, that's fine. But again,
plus ultra.
Only those 4 characters I think have had anything significant happen to them where they've changed even slightly from their original form.
Sue evolves tremendously as a character.
Nothing happens.
Yeah. Like Sue, in my opinion, like, you know, because whenever Sue was on screen, she was the main character. That's just how I felt about it.
You're just. I knew you were gonna turn this episode into just Sue.
No, like it's more than Sue, but Sue is like one of those characters that just kind of like redefines what it means to be a waifu.
All right. Okay. Well, let's see. These characters are great character development. What is the name of the pink chick with the pink hair? What's her name without looking? Go ahead.
Mina?
Fuck off. You didn't know that.
I mean, I play the game all the freaking time.
Okay, you play the game.
How many times I get my butt kicked by her online?
Okay, but you wouldn't know if you didn't play the game. Be honest.
I probably would.
I don't even remember half these characters' names. I didn't even remember the main character.
No, don't get me wrong. There's certain characters' names I don't remember, and I will agree with you, there are certain characters that really haven't been developed enough yet to even be worth remembering.
I'm saying just in Class A, the majority of Class A, there's only those 4 characters.
I do not remember the Invisible Girl's name.
Yeah, and the only reason you remember fucking Sue or whatever is because she's your waifu.
She's the best waifu.
Because she's your waifu, but you don't remember her as a character.
Yes, I do.
No, you don't. What's her last name?
Her Asui. Actually, I think her first. I don't know how the Japanese. You know how Japanese names are kind of flipped from American. So, her name is Suyu Asui, I think.
Well,
So,
I mean, she's not even on.
but she just goes by Sue.
She's
Well, she
barely.
tells everybody to call her Sue,
She's
but
barely
Deku
in
keeps on
the
being
show.
a little bitch and not calling her Sue. Which
all,
it pisses me off when, like, you know, Deku disrespects Sue like that.
Okay. All jokes aside, she's barely in the show.
Barely in the show. She saved Deku's ass the first time they had a run-in with the villains.
I'm just saying she's barely in the show. I wish she was in the show
what
more.
What do you qualify
I'm saying
barely in the show? She had an entire episode dedicated to her.
I wish she was in the show more, but
I
she's
wish
not.
she was in the show more too.
But she's not.
She
That's
definitely got a decent amount of character development where we're at right now.
No, she didn't.
And she's only going to get more as it goes on.
She has not gotten any character development. She's the same fucking dumb frog bitch as day one. Nothing's changed.
No, and I am offended that you called her a dumb frog bitch.
We don't know anything about her or anything.
We know enough about her.
Why does she want to
be more interested? We want to know more. I agree with you. I want to know more.
Why does she want to be a hero?
I would love to have like maybe another 5 or 6 episodes entirely dedicated to Sue. And honestly, I would like to see the next movie that comes out feature Sue more, because we don't really get to see enough of Sue fighting. Every time Sue is involved in one of the fights, she's a badass and she totally eclipses almost everybody else in just sheer ability.
Dude,
her quirk is probably the most powerful quirk of all the females in Class 1A.
Anyone listening to this who is not a Sue fan probably thinks you're such a fucking weeb. Waifu.
Her quirk is massively her quirk is infinitely useful. She's the most powerful female in Class 1A. I stick by that. She she has the ability to do camouflage, which basically gives her the ability to practically turn invisible. Her tongue allows her to pick up stuff much heavier than herself, but also allows her to swing around basically like Spider-Man. She has the stomach acid, ability to jump really high. Better agility than everybody else in 1A.
Momo could fabricate a gun and blow her fucking head off.
Momo has a very overpowered quirk, and yet she somehow ends up being pretty useless in almost every fight she's in.
That's because she has doubt of her fucking abilities, and she's only there.
And Sue doesn't.
Yeah. Well, Sue sucks. Sue sucks.
No.
I'm just saying.
Every fight Sue was in, she was probably the most badass person in that fight. And like I said, the first run-in with the villains at that little center or whatever they were training at, Sue had to save Deku's ass.
All right, yeah. I love how you referenced that one moment in season fucking 1.
Okay, well,
what else did she do?
Talk about some other times. You remember during her internship when she was training with the walrus or seal guy?
No, I don't remember.
Well, she basically was able to pretty much help capture those I forgot what crime they were committing, but she kicked those pirates' asses by herself pretty much.
Anyone can.
She also during the fight with
None of this is character development. Having a character on screen doing stuff is not character development. I think you're mistaking.
No. Well, okay, when you're talking about character development, remember when she was giving her pitting her stance on why she didn't think that if they wanted to be heroes that they should be doing villainous stuff when they were talking about breaking all these rules to go save Bakugo and stuff. That showed real character development for Sue. And then she goes out and says, "This is why I felt that way when after they saved Bakugo and stuff." So yeah, Sue gets quite a bit of character development, and you're right. I want to see more of Sue too. I want to see a lot more of Sue.
Okay. All right. Enough about Sue. Can we talk about any other character besides Sue for 5 seconds now?
All right. Well.
So who's number 2 after Sue in the class? 1A. We're still on 1A. We're just talking about our thoughts on 1A. My thing is, I told you the 4 characters I think that actually have had character development, and those 4 are probably my favorite characters.
And which characters were those?
Todoroki, Bakugo, Deku, and what's his name? The class rep guy, Tenya. Yeah. Or Ida, or however you say his name.
Well, I'm gonna say my favorite characters, like Momo, Sue, Uraraka, and probably Mina.
So you like all of the chicks?
It's not just that. It's
besides
not
the
just that they're
invisible chick.
chicks. It's not just that they're chicks.
What about the music?
Well, it's
music
about the
jack
character
chick?
development.
What about the
Huh?
what about the music jack chick? I think she has more.
Her?
She has more development with the recent episode about singing, getting over her
yeah.
fear
No, don't get
than
me wrong,
any
like,
other
Hero's
fucking.
pretty cool too, but I feel like those of those 4 other ones had more character development.
I'm gonna humbly disagree, but yeah, those 4 characters all suck. Sakura is a better female character than all of these other characters. Anyone who disagrees is dumb.
Well, I think you can piss off with that.
I'm sorry.
You can totally piss off with
Sakura literally got over Sasuke, cut her hair, and like edged out rivalship between her like ultimate rival in the fucking first 30 episodes. So
Well, Sue like literally got over the fact that she's probably the most overpowered character in her
swear to
class,
God.
and was willing
No.
to let other people take center spotlight.
no, I mean when we talk about it's one thing. Sakura might be worthless in her respective series, but at least she does have character development, even if it leads her to being worthless.
Yeah. But the characters in the class 1A that I mentioned, like Sue, Uraraka, Momo, and Mina, they are infinitely useful inside of their series.
Yeah.
Infinitely useful. Every time they're on screen, they're doing something useful. Except for Momo, she needs to really step her game up. She has probably one of the most overpowered quirks in the show, and yet she doesn't seem overpowered at all. In fact, she seems like she's underpowered for somebody who could literally create anything.
Yeah.
But I think we're gonna start seeing more of Momo realizing that, hey, I could literally just create a nuke and blow away all of them in a second.
She can technically only create stuff if she knows how to make it.
And she carries around a book that tells her how to make a lot of.
I don't think she can figure out how to make a nuclear bomb.
I think she could.
Maybe later on. I don't know, but
I think honestly, she'd be a great villain for the show.
Well,
that's how good she is.
My thing is,
if
you were one of these characters, you'd definitely be Mineta. That's how shitty you are. So I just want you to know that. I noticed you. What about all these other really developed characters? Like half of these guys, you don't even. Like that guy, what's his name? Fucking Zero or whatever. I've never even seen that guy before. Are you looking at the list I'm looking at?
You're looking at the character list right now?
Yeah. I just pulled it up.
The dude with the armpits that shoot tape out?
Yeah, worthless.
I mean, I don't like him. We don't really know much about him. He's had almost no character development at all.
Anyways.
Last time I remember seeing him was like those like student the exams where they had to fight against their teachers and stuff.
All right. Well,
that's the last time I remember seeing him.
All right. Enough about 1A though. Let's just go over some more characters here. So let's do the stats.
Well, we didn't even get to all the characters in 1A, and there's like at least a few other characters
and they're
in 1A,
so
I think,
insignificant that
we didn't mention Todoroki at all.
We just talked about his past and getting over his dad, and you talked about that his triumphed over that.
All right. Well, what about Tokoyami?
Nothing's happened in his entire time.
But you did see Tokoyami, and you find out more secrets about Tokoyami and how his quirk can go out of control and potentially harm him.
Who gives a shit?
I think that adds like a cool dynamic to his character, because it's a character that has like this deep-rooted darkness inside of him that he himself probably fears, and he struggles to keep that under control. He's like Raven from the Teen Titans.
Yeah. Too much like Raven from Teen Titans. No. Did you really have anything else to say about anyone else in 1A for real? Let's talk about the dude.
I have nothing to say about Mineta. Mineta, I will if you want to go ahead and throw out that Mineta's useless, I'll agree with you. His quirk is pretty worthless. We didn't talk about the Invisible Girl. I'm looking at her name right now, which is the only way I would know it. Toru Hagakure.
Yeah. I
really want to see her do more, because she is the most underdeveloped character in the entire show.
And if you're looking, the dude made of rock and the dude to his right, I literally thought that was the same character. I didn't realize those were two separate characters.
One is the dude that eats like a lot of sugar and gets really strong.
I forgot they were separate characters.
And then the other one talks to animals.
I thought they were the same character until I looked at this.
And then there's Belly Button Laser Dude.
Yeah,
remember that's the only thing I remember.
Remember that episode where he like tried to molest Deku? He's
a creepy character. He really is.
I think you're a combination of that guy and Mineta if you were in this show.
No. If anything, I'd probably be more of a maybe a Kirishima mixed with Todoroki.
I don't think so. Not even
Yeah,
close.
and maybe the leadership skills of Tenya.
Yeah, and Kirishima, he gets a tiny bit of development, but he doesn't actually develop. He just does what he's always done, and doing what you
Which is
always
get hard.
and doing what you always doing is not developing. That's
developing.
That's basic.
Sometimes consistency is the
No.
same thing as development.
That's like the difference between like Inuyasha's character development versus Luffy's character development. They're on a whole different fucking scale.
Yeah, Luffy wishes he got the character development Inuyasha did.
Oh yeah, Inuyasha gets super wind scar by the end of the series, and he really learns a valuable lesson about nothing. Anyways,
So,
we'll be covering Inuyasha eventually.
no, he won't.
They're doing
Please, I won't.
they're making a final. They're doing the final arc in anime form. They're doing a sequel manga. That's what they're doing. That's they already did the final arc in movies, but they're doing a sequel manga.
I'm looking forward to seeing you talk about that because I won't be.
All right. Well, we should have started with the teachers in the first place. Let's just talk about the teachers and the staff at the school. So, what do you think? Who's the best of all of them? Not including
All Might.
Besides All Might.
That was easy.
Besides
All
All Might. Come on.
Oh, let's see. Besides All Might.
Yeah. All Might's Jiraiya, Eraserhead's Kakashi. Go ahead.
Well, All Might and Eraserhead and Midnight are really the only teachers I care about.
All right.
These other teachers, and Gran Torino. Gran Torino is listed as a teacher here?
Former teacher.
So, I'm excluding Gran Torino from it, and let's just talk about current teachers.
Gran Torino
All Might,
was-
Eraserhead, and Midnight. These other teachers might as well not exist.
Yeah, Gran Torino was All Might's teacher at UA, I think.
Yes. And Gran Torino is Plus Ultra.
Yeah. I mean,
But All Might, for being typically the type of character I wouldn't like, I really like All Might. The show just makes me like those really goody two-shoe characters that I typically hate in most other anime because these characters are all Plus Ultra. Well, with the exception of the rest of these teachers, like Present Mike or whatever.
yeah.
He can talk loud, so what? Cementos, I don't even see him on screen much. Snipe Guy, even less than that. Ectoplasm, he's got a cool quirk at least. Power Loader, I've seen him for like 5 seconds in one episode. I didn't even know he was a teacher until now. And this Vlad King dude, I do not remember him at all.
He's the 1B teacher.
Well, now the more you know.
All right. What about the other staff? The principal, the little mole rat guy.
The principal, his quirk kind of sucks.
He's an animal and he's smart. I mean,
well, that's his quirk is that he's smart, but it's like it's not. I mean, it's not as much a quirk as it is a character trait.
What about 13, the most powerful character in the show?
She's not the most powerful character in the show.
She can summon black holes.
Beaten by her own quirk.
She can summon black holes.
Yes, and she gets beaten by her own quirk.
So does every quirk has a weakness that ends up beating yourself. That's the whole point of the fucking show.
No. There's some quirks that have 0 weaknesses. All Might's quirk has 0 weaknesses.
Not true.
What could possibly stop All Might in his prime? What on earth could possibly stop All Might in his prime?
All for one.
He didn't stop All Might.
He killed him, basically.
No, he didn't.
Made him lose his power.
Even, like, underpowered. Do I need to remind you of the United States of Smash?
Okay. Well, I mean, other than that, yeah, the teachers, a lot of them are forgettable, except obviously the ones that are in the show a lot.
All Might, Eraserhead, and Midnight's
can we just talk about
for a number of reasons.
The principal
I can think
of
of 2
school,
very good reasons why Midnight is unforgettable.
The principal of the school is fucking worthless. He constantly lets these kids get attacked. How is he not got fired?
But he makes some pretty good tea from what I hear.
How has he not got fired? That's all I'm saying. He's so smart, like he just sucks.
He's probably smart enough to negotiate a pretty solid tenure contract.
All right. So what about Class B? Anything of note of Class B? I'm looking at Class B. I don't recognize anyone from Class B.
Well, Tetsu. We can start with him.
I don't even know who that is.
First of all, let's just start with his name. His name is Tetsu.
I don't know who that is.
Tetsu.
What does he do? I don't know who he is.
He basically has Kirishima's quirk.
Oh yeah, that's right. He's the opposite guy. Yeah.
Yeah, tattoo is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And he has the best, well, one of the best names in the show.
And then there's
We'll get to the best name in the
there's the
show, but
one kid who, like, when he's touching someone he can use their quirk, right? He's in Class B.
no, like Neto Manoma.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, his quirk is copy. I don't even think he has to touch him, do they? Does he?
I don't remember how I think he
Yeah.
has to, like, do something to activate it. I don't remember what it was. That's how pointless he is. But yeah, Class B. I mean, what is Class B
Well,
really
and then
for?
you also have Itsuka Kendo.
Yeah.
She's the girl who can make the big hands, like the yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
what do you think of Class B overall, though? We don't have to go through every single person. Like, do you think?
I mean, honestly, there's only 4 characters in Class 1B that I think are worth mentioning. And that's the first one being Tattoo. Neto Minoma, Ibara Shiozaki, and Kendo.
Yeah, I don't even know who those last two are, to be honest.
Well, the girl with the plant hair was the second to last one I mentioned, and then like Kendo is the, like I said, Itsuka Kendo is the girl who can make her hands really big.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the rest of Class 1B do
Well,
anything
my
yet
thing
outside
is,
of those 4.
let's just talk about the role of Class B. Why Class B exists? Why is it even a dynamic in the show? Why have an elite academy and then have this division between the class when everyone in Class A is
Well,
clearly
because
better?
you want to have some kind of competition going on within the
Well,
classes.
no, I know, but I'm just saying, like, do you think this dynamic is interesting or fun
I
in the
think
story?
I think it would be more interesting if, like, maybe we got some more development with Class 1B.
My thing
I think
is,
it would be awesome if Class 1B got their own spin-off show just more about them, because this My Hero right now just focuses on Class 1A.
my thing
So
is, I believe that Class B is, like, super insignificant outside of just the first beginning of the show, and they really should have made the students with the unique powers in a different school. I don't know why they had to be in the same school. I guess just for that whole, contest amongst the school itself. But I find it much more interesting in the later arcs where they went against people from different schools than I did ever with the rivalry between them and their own class. I thought that was stupid.
I would like to see more of Class 1B. Like I said, it would be great if we could get like a spin-off show where Class 1B is the main focus and we get to see more about them. That way these characters can get developed more. That's the one thing I think holds My Hero back, is it has a lot of great characters, but it can't focus on all those characters.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of great characters that we'll probably won't see on screen for maybe another 100 episodes. So it would be great to maybe have a like what you were talking about with vigilantes and stuff. I'm looking forward to that. But I would also like maybe another spinoff where for Class 1B, another spinoff for those characters from the other school, which I think we're getting to. And maybe some more spinoffs, to go over all the different range of characters that this show has. This show has infinite amounts of potential to branch off and become more and more and more and more stuff. And I would be in for all of it. I want to see all of it.
Yeah, I mean, there's some things that are more interesting than the others. I mean, the hero universe itself is kind of interesting, but as the show
the
progresses,
entire world of My Hero Academia is just
I think as the show has gotten longer, I've just started to care less and less as time goes on.
I think as the show has gone on, I've cared more.
Well, let's just continue through. Let's just kind of get through these characters. Let's just finish up in the school. So, another major characters in the show is the big three, obviously. They were introduced in, what was it, beginning of season 4? Or end season 3? Something like that.
And Nejire is an amazing character.
Yeah, another chick.
Pretty well developed.
What's her quirk again?
Oh, you mean her power?
Yeah.
she has a quirk about her. Yeah, her ability. Was it? I think her ability is. Yeah. Exactly. I know she can like float.
Yeah.
Well. She can shoot some blast or something.
Yeah. Her
quirk is called wave motion.
All right.
I don't know too much about the specifics of her quirk. I'm just reading it here. It says her quirk grants her the ability to convert her own vitality into energy and release it in the form of exceptionally powerful spiral waves.
Yeah.
And she also has an amazing figure.
Yeah, well, I mean, she's okay, and then the other two, they're okay too, I guess. I mean,
Are,
anything else to say about them?
are you kidding? Like, Mirio, I mean, we were gonna get over Mirio going into the story eventually,
Yeah.
but Mirio's quirk, as exceptional as Mirio as a character, is so much more than his quirk, and that's something that he has over Midoriya.
He is.
Midoriya would not be much without his quirk. Mirio kicks so much ass without his quirk.
He's a carbon copy of All Might. Yeah.
He's basically every man's hero.
He's basically All Might. Yeah.
And Amajiki, I really do like his quirk. His quirk has a lot of potential because his quirk has infinite potential basically because there's like his quirk changes with whatever he eats.
What happens if he sucks dick?
I mean, like if he goes to like an all you can eat buffet, he becomes the most powerful character in the universe.
Well, what happens if he sucks a dick?
I don't. What the hell? What the actual hell?
I'm just saying.
Like no. And then Nejire, I mean, like I said, she's going on the waifu list. Obviously, I wouldn't pit her above Sue, but I'm gonna have to pit her as number 2. I really am.
Okay. All right. Let's see. What else? Who else we have? We have that one guy who can like control people in general studies. What do you think?
Oh yeah, he has to ask. You have to answer a question that he asks, and then he can control you.
He's pretty overpowered, right? For people that don't know,
not
his power,
really, because like the only
know
thing you have to do to beat him is to just shut the hell up.
Well, I'm saying if you don't know his power, though, he can almost get anyone if he wanted to.
Well, he couldn't get somebody who doesn't have the ability to talk.
I mean, that's a very few and far between. All right, so there's him, and then
wait, what if the person doesn't speak his language?
It doesn't matter. I don't think it matters. I think it's that psychological connection. And then we have that one chick who makes the gear. I guess that's the only other person of note in the school. Right?
Oh, Mei Hatsume?
Yeah.
She's, you know what? She's going on a waifu list as well, for obvious reasons, but her quirk is not great. Her quirk allows her to see really far, but you'd figure she'd have a quirk that was more useful to what she does, which is invent stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so overall, that's the academy. I mean, it's pretty basic. I mean, a lot of carbon copy characters from other anime, a lot of characters with little to no development, very few and far between characters development, disguised as having character development across multiple characters.
What do you mean disguised as having character developments? Characters in this show are either developed or they haven't had screen time yet.
It feels
if they've had screen time, they've been developed.
It feels like that you're inflating and equating the minimal screen time that the majority of the cast has to having true development, which is just not true.
What would you consider development? Do you need to know about where their parents went to grade school at? Do you need to know what country their grandparents immigrated from? Maybe you need to know their blood type. I don't feel like a character is fully developed unless I know that they're either AB positive or O negative.
My thing is, until you've watched One Piece and you've seen the masterful art of true character development and world building.
Over 1,000 episodes. Of course you have developed characters by a point.
Of pure character development, of pure world building. There's a reason it's the most popular show.
One Piece has over 1,000 episodes.
And this show will be lucky.
My Hero doesn't even have 100 yet.
Yeah, but the thing is,
it's got time to catch up.
By 1,000 episodes in My Hero, no one will give a shit. That's what I'm saying.
No, by 1,000 episodes in My Hero, everyone's gonna give a shit.
People still care about One Piece. That's why it's still going on because
you still care about One Piece. Don't confuse you with the people.
All of Japan agrees since it's still #1 almost every month. So
you'd figure after 1,000 episodes you would be pretty high up there. My Hero has 88 episodes.
My Hero.
How do you compete with 1,000?
My Hero's popularity is actually declining everywhere. It's
because of the pandemic.
It's more popular probably in the States than it even is in Japan. So
give it time. Give it time.
Yeah. All right. There's so many different characters to go through. I mean, I don't even know where to go from here. I mean, there's the pro heroes.
Well, let's just go over the characters that had an impact. So we don't need to go over every character, obviously.
No,
I'm gonna skip down to Inasa. I think he's a character like worth talking about. He was the guy who had the problem with Todoroki during the licensing exam.
Well, let's just. I mean, we might as well just go through the story arcs and just talk about the characters as like the villains as we go through, since we went over the main
All
school.
right.
So, well, we're just gonna go through the story arc. So basically, the entrance exam arc. It was the first 4 episodes. What do you think? That's when we get introduced to Deku.
Like, them entering the UA and stuff.
Yeah, that's when Deku does his training with All Might, and he gets into UA, and that's when he does the entrance exam.
I think it was a great way to introduce a lot of characters.
Did you like the entrance exam arc in general of him? I thought the entrance exam was stupid. The whole of like, don't destroy the machines.
I like the entrance exam because they acknowledge that there is a problem with the way they do the entrance exam, and the entrance exam is more geared towards people with certain types of quirks. So they're already setting up like a background, like with a problem within their society in general, in that quirks are kind of like class division in our society, where if somebody has like a better quirk, then there's or a quirk that's beneficial to like hero work or something like that, then they're seen as like a higher class of citizen than people with like some quirk that may not be able to do much. And that comes into play a lot more later, and we do see it a lot more later on in the series too, that there's a major problem in this society that needs to be addressed, rather than just looked over and accepted. Well, so it does a good job of setting up this like society, and it kind of like introduces it as sort of a problem, but not really. It also goes into like early on in the entrance exam, like that a hero is more than somebody who just can like beat up a bunch of giant robots and stuff. A hero has to pit other people before himself. Remember, Midoriya didn't initially have the points to get in until he got all those bonus points for saving Uraraka and stuff. Yeah. So.
And, I mean, what do you think of the giant robots not being worth points? I mean, come on. You should get some points if you take one of those down.
I kind of agree with it, because
I mean, I guess they just don't want to incentivize.
A hero has a hero, like beating up a giant robot doesn't make you a hero. It just makes you a guy who can beat up a giant robot.
Well, I mean,
a hero is about saving people.
But the regular test is just about them beating up smaller robots.
I mean, it goes back into what I was saying, though. There's a problem within that society. And I'm hoping later on they're really going to address it a lot more.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah, I mean, as far as the introduction arc, it's a pretty good introduction. I mean, really, the first few episodes get you gripped into the show. I mean, especially when All Might tells him that he can't be a hero. That was really awesome that he did that. But then to him go back on it, that was kind of lame. But by that point, you've probably already committed to watching the show. So I think overall, I mean, it was a decent introduction. And then after...
You know what, like, going into that, something when I was first watching the show, for one thing I was kind of hoping to see, and it ended up going in a completely different direction, obviously, but I was kind of hoping it would be like, if like a character like Rock Lee was like the main character, where in Naruto, Rock Lee was like the only character who couldn't use jutsu or whatever, but he overcame that with just hard work alone. And I was thinking Midoriya was going to be like that, but and I'm not saying Midoriya didn't work hard; he worked his butt off. But
I mean, I was hoping for like a Moomin Rider from like One Punch Man.
No, I don't want that at all.
Where he like tries really hard but fails miserably.
And then fails every time.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to see.
Well, no. But I did. I mean, I liked the direction they took, but it would have been interesting to see like somebody like who's genuinely quirkless actually move up the ranks in hero society.
Yeah.
Which you don't. I mean, like you don't see a lot of anime really tackle the hero like being on a separate stage where he's absolutely powerless compared to everybody else, and he has to overcome it with nothing but hard work alone. Midoriya pits into hard work, don't get me wrong, but hard work is only 50% of what gets him to where he is. The other 50% being the fact that he has one for all. So
yeah, well, I mean, we have a lot to cover here, so we'll just go through the next part. So episode 5 and 6, that's technically its own little arc. That's where they're the quirks are judged by the homeroom teacher, and he kind of reviews them if they can be heroes or not. Not much of note there. Then we had the battle trial arc, which is where they decide on their hero costumes, and they do the that's the first time Izuku and Bakugo, they have that little battle inside the houses.
I think that's worth like at least mentioning, because I didn't notice how similar, how much Midoriya's costume was influenced by All Might.
Yeah.
Until All Might kind of points it out to him. He's like, "You couldn't be more obvious if you tried." Also, the just seeing that rivalry built up between Bakugo and Midoriya at the start, it made me want to watch more to see like where this was gonna go, and I do like where it's been going because, like I said, I think Bakugo in his own right is kind of like a main character too, and you kind of see Bakugo evolve with Midoriya. It's not like Bakugo stays at one point and Midoriya just keeps on getting better. Bakugo has been keeping up with Midoriya every step of the way, and in a way, Bakugo's been staying ahead of Midoriya because Midoriya and Bakugo do face off one-on-one later on, and Bakugo beats him. Midoriya has this super overpowered quirk, and Bakugo still beats him. And so it's nice to see that Midoriya isn't just this one ultra-powered character that, just automatically overcomes every challenge he's presented with.
Well, Bakugo does, they do lose that first challenge, though.
Well, that first challenge wasn't like a one-on-one. It wasn't a one-on-one bout.
That's where Bakugo learns that he should like keep his cool better. So,
Bakugo, like I said, Bakugo's evolving too. So he's learning that he can't do everything by himself.
Yeah, and then
he still hasn't fully learned that lesson, but he's getting there.
So then after that, of course, we have the end of the first season, which was only a few episodes. The length of a normal anime that we've watched up to this point. So this is where the League of Villains attack the facility there when they were doing that rescue skill challenge.
And like I mentioned, Sue kicked some major ass in that.
Yeah. So overall,
that was we could really call that whole thing the rise of Sue arc.
I don't really think so. But what did you think of like just kind of that first season as a whole up to this point? Like,
it was like one of the best opening seasons of any anime I've seen.
We do have the fight of All Might versus the Nomu guy,
which was epic. It was epic. It was epic. Like and seeing All Might really go plus ultra for the first time. Because you remember when All Might showed up, Midoriya told him, "Hey, I hit him with 100% of One for All, and it didn't work." Yeah. And All Might was like, "Well, if 100% doesn't work, then just go beyond." And Midoriya was like, Midoriya realizes that even though that he has the same quirk as All Might is in a different league than him.
That was a pretty awesome moment. You gotta give it to the show. Most shonen don't have the most powerful character go full power in the first season. So that's one thing I would say. It's a very interesting dynamic to have the most powerful character show off his full power in the first season. So.
And you know what's really great about that is that's a character who's well past his prime. So this isn't All Might when he was at his best. All Might, like, this is after All Might has already gotten up there in age, and he's also has that major injury that really decreases his power. Yeah. So All Might is far from the best he's ever been at this point, and he's still better than everybody else.
Yep. So then, with next arc after that, start of season 2, we have the tuning exams. The sports festival, of course. What do you have to say about the sports festival? That was a big, long arc.
Oh yeah, and it was great.
The sports festival great. It was as long as the first 13 episodes of the show up to that point. And the first 13 episodes, a lot happens in the first 13 episodes. I think the sports festival arc is the first time we see like some slowing down in pacing since it's a whole tournament arc. Which it lasts
it's also the first time. Like it's a great chance for everybody to really show off what they can do. So you get to see a lot more of other characters besides just the main cast you've been seeing up to this point.
Yeah, so that
it actually introduced characters that we hadn't even seen by that point, like the characters from Class 1B and stuff.
So that tournament lasts from episode 13 to 25, and pretty much it is just a tournament between all the people from the school and testing off their abilities. and
Yes,
trying to
and
get
going
noticed.
plus ultra.
Yeah, and they're just trying to get noticed. Overall, I mean, I don't know. It's so hard to not compare this to other animes like tournament arcs.
Well, yeah, it's a
I
common
mean,
thing in shonen in general. Like
yeah,
this thing follows the shonen arc like to
yeah.
a T to some points, but that's not a bad thing
I
because
mean, as
it
far as
obviously
tournament
works.
arcs go, I mean, it was a decent tournament arc. We got to
It was a
see,
great tournament arc.
yeah, it was the first time we
I
got to
will say
see
this much: I want
characters
to
use
make
their
this comparison.
power.
Like
So,
I've talked about the shonen formula a few times. I was like going over this with my sister the other day because she was watching this new anime she wanted me to get into. It was another shonen, and she was saying, "Oh, they have this turn mark." I'm like, "I bet the main character loses that tournament, doesn't he?" And she's like, "Yeah." And she asked me if I'd seen it before. I was like, "That's kind of happens in every single shonen for tournament arc. Like Goku lost the first World Tournament in Dragon Ball. Naruto loses that tournament,
yeah,
the
and
Chunin
and that's probably
exam.
my biggest complaint
Uh,
with the arc
it
is
just
it.
happens at every single like in the Food Wars when they get to that like food war cook-off tournament at the like in the beginning first tournament in Food Wars, the main character loses. Like it just happens in every single shonen. And
Yeah.
every single shonen just having this tournament arc in the first place is one thing, but every single tournament arc going the same route, and I get why they do it because it
Yeah.
allows the main character to
Well,
realize
it's a
that they
good
have room to
showcase of
improve.
yeah, it's a good showcase of power. As the whole point of the tournament arc is to really show off the different characters. We get introduced to some new characters, and overall, I mean, good arc. But I mean, I don't really have
And
much
it
else to
had some
say
great
about it.
fights. The fight between Midoriya and
Yeah,
Todoroki, I thought was pretty epic. I liked the way that ended. And you know how I was saying Bakugo, had some really funny moments. Bakugo being a sore winner at the end of that tournament and not liking how he won the tournament, I thought that was hilarious.
yeah. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, I would be pretty upset too. So let's see. What's after the sports festival? The Hero Killer arc. So that's with good old
Stain.
Stain, where that arc lasts between episode 26 to 33. So I believe that's the end of season 2 at the end of that arc, if I'm not mistaken.
And I think this is a very important arc because it highlights more of what I was saying in that there is a problem with that society. The
Which
society that
my thing is,
is
I don't agree with Stain or what you're talking about right now. That there is
I think Stain. I don't agree with Stain's actions, but I agree with Stain's motivations. There is a problem within that hero society. It's deep rooted, and it's so deeply rooted that people just accept it.
I wouldn't agree that there is a significant problem with, because in this type of world, you're gonna have heroes that want to be heroes, and you're gonna have heroes that are doing it for other reasons. But I think there
But
should
the
be a
thing
balance
is,
between the two.
they've kind of like perverted the term hero.
Yeah,
Hero is
well,
supposed to be somebody that has heroic intentions for and that does heroic actions. Hero in this society can refer to either that or to somebody who is just either financially or financially successful doing it, or they've made a name for themselves and
but
like
at
become
the
well
end
known
of the
because of it.
day, the top heroes and the heroes
The
in
top hero is
general,
basically just a popularity contest.
it's really not. I mean, they really are all really strong heroes, and they really do
No,
save
no, yeah, they
everyone.
are all really
My
strong,
my
but
thing is, my problem with that whole idea in this show is that there hasn't been a supreme example of one of the top heroes be like, because even Stain says, "Oh, the top hero is the only true hero who was All Might at the time in the show." So he even agreed that the system was at least putting the top hero at the top. So I mean, and
that is just in that case. But Stain
but
wouldn't agree with Endeavor being the top hero.
but Endeavor, as we saw in the finale, is still a great hero, and he's not
Oh
doing it for
yeah,
the
no,
wrong
don't get me wrong.
reasons.
I think Endeavor,
But
goes hard like
he's
a mother.
still a true hero. He might be doing it for his own ego in a way, and he might have made some mistakes, but he truly wants to be a hero, and it's not just because he wants to prove how powerful he is. Really, I
Which
mean,
he is a beast.
on the surface, that might be what it seems like, and maybe that's how he felt earlier in his career. But to say that all the top heroes are like that, we would have to have a supreme example of a character that's doing that, and we just never did.
Well, it's not even just at the top. Think of during that Stain arc, like Midoriya, Tanya, and Todoroki. they took on Stain, and they were basically the ones who beat Stain.
Yeah.
They were not allowed to take credit for it because they didn't have a license to do it.
Which makes sense because there has to be some policing involved in this, or otherwise.
Yeah, but you could at that point claim it was just self-defense because they're not even allowed to use their quirks if their lives are in danger because they don't have a license to use them.
Again, Stain wasn't against that. He was against the idea of fake heroes, which there wasn't. Like, if it was...
I'm saying that the society has multiple problems. Stain was only targeting one issue with their society, but their society itself,
people should not
to
be able
change
to
the
use
way
their
it views
quirks whenever you want. Yeah, you shouldn't be able to use the quirks whenever you want. That's stupid. Otherwise, we get...
No, like, the quirk... If 90% of the population has quirks, it's basically like, part of like their genetics at that point.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about, something like One Punch Man. If the top of A class in One Punch Man, if they had a character like that who was just like a celebrity who didn't really give a shit about saving people and was just there to be the number one in his whatever, that would make sense for Stain's belief to happen. But since they didn't really sell me on the idea that I understood his philosophy, and it was a good philosophy that heroes should all be real heroes, which is good for the top hero. But I think there's a place in the society for heroes.
I think All Might is more like you're thinking. All Might is like every other hero in the show. All Might is the exception and not the rule.
But
every
all
other
the top
hero
heroes
is just trying to be number one hero.
No,
All Might ended up being the number one hero because he wanted to be a symbol of peace.
That's fine.
All Might's intention was never to be number one hero. He just wanted to be a symbol of peace.
But every hero can't be that. It's unrealistic to think that. And the heroes in the show, if you look at the list of the top heroes and the pro heroes, they might be doing it because for other reasons, but they still, at the end of the day, want to be heroes. That's the whole point of the fucking academy and this generation of kids, is that they also have those same beliefs. And the people that came before them had the same beliefs. I think it's just that he wished that every hero was like All Might, which is just unrealistic and fucking stupid. That's all I'm saying.
I think what he's saying, and it's not even about like their financial or like any other motivations.
He just believes that
I think he doesn't believe, and I think he's correct in believing that not most heroes don't embody what it means to truly be a hero.
Okay, and that's fine. That's what I'm saying. I think that's just, he's wrong. I mean, his philosophy makes sense if in a utopia, but the world is not a utopia. It'll never be a utopia. It's a very unrealistic goal. The heroes, they're not problematics. If they actually demonstrated corruption, or if they demonstrated any type of negative hero doing negative evil shit, that would make his views make sense. Maybe if we don't even see
we're only on episode 88. I'm pretty sure we're gonna see some hero with some less than ideal intention.
But at the time in the show, that's where we're referencing right now, episode 33, when everything.
I'm referencing the episode that's going to be coming out a couple of years from now, episode 344.
Well, regardless, anyways, that's enough about fucking Stain. It was an interesting arc. Interesting. There was some development there with the characters and kind of learning that the world isn't all hunky dory, and there's people that have opposing views that aren't necessarily villains and not necessarily heroes. But that was interesting to say the least. But again, the philosophy kind of falls a little flat because it doesn't.
But one other thing important about Stain, outside of highlighting the problems with society, is Stain is the primary reason that the going into the next arc, you see the League of Villains even gain traction. Yeah. Because so many of these villains looked up to Stain, and they thought
that's a lot later on. So let's go ahead and
it's not even a lot later on. It's really going right into the next season.
So then after this, that actually wasn't the end of season 2. I forgot there was the end part. So that's the final exams arc is actually the true end. That's where they do the written test and the practice exam. But they have to face each other in the combat to pass the practice exam. Remember that? And that's where we get Bakugo's origin story.
Young Bakugo.
Yeah. So, I mean, what do you think? That was between episode 34 and 38. And in that episode, that's the one where we also have the encounter between what's his name? Fucking the leader of the League of Villains and Deku, like in the park or whatever, and he's like gonna kill him. Remember that? And he like puts his hand on his neck, like, I could kill you right now, but I'm not. You remember that?
You mean Shigaraki?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So I mean that was interesting. And then the next arc is the Force training arc. So that's like
which was
that's
awesome.
between episode 39 to 45, and
I think Midoriya kind of lost his mind during that arc though.
yeah, and
Like going around like he basically like like burnt out his arms completely. He was like half dead almost. He's just running around giving orders to other people. I'm like, dude, I think you need to calm the fuck down. So
yeah.
uh,
And then and with
uh,
that we pretty much we learn about the Pussycats, that group of losers, and we have what happens in that arc. There's that kid Coda, and him and Deku have that like special moment where he saves him, and he's his like first true fan, I guess. That's really the only thing I took out of that arc. Some decent
well,
fights.
going
But
back to Tokoyami though, like that's the arc where you see Tokoyami really can lose control of his shadow, and
yeah,
it can be a really scary thing. It also like it's really like gets Sue a chance to show off how badass she is a little bit more. And also I think it's a good chance to talk about Toga. She is an awesome villain. We didn't really talk about her much when we were talking about the licensing exam and stuff, but
that's when she
her
was first introduced.
yeah, I mean, her quirk just sets up for like an infinite amount of possibilities for like plot twists in the story. So she can transform, she can become any character, and depending on how they showed us in the show, you may not even know that she's a certain character until several episodes later, which I think they can do something great with this, and they probably are going to do something great with it later. I like her personality though. She's kind of I don't know, more of like she's got like this stalker type personality, but it's creepy, it's eerie, but I think it's because of the way her character design is, and her personality and stuff. It all blends to make this villain that you both like and can maybe grow to hate at the same time.
Yeah.
I didn't think Muscular was all that great though. I can get really muscular, and you can see my muscles going inside and outside of my muscles and stuff.
Yeah, I'm
like,
surprised you. I mean, I guess you watched this more recently than me, that you're recalling a lot of details from it. Because I saw this when the shit aired years ago, where we're even at now in this story. But yeah, I mean, up to that point, well,
and another important thing that happens during this arc is
we're at
this is where Bakugo gets captured.
No, so that's where we're getting at next. So the next arc is the Hideout Raid arc. That's between episode 46 and 50, and I believe that's the end of season 3. I believe so, or at least a break or something like that. And that's where the League of Villains attack and they capture Bakugo, and that's when we really get fully introduced to the other crew, from Stain and all that. We get more introduction to some of those people. And do you remember what happened in that arc?
Something
pretty.
Bakugo gets captured.
Yeah, but something pretty big
happens. Training
happens.
camp.
Something pretty big happens. The All for One.
Oh yeah.
Fight. The best fight in the show.
I still stick by it's my favorite arc. So I thought that like just the lead up to this, and you learning about the origins of One for All.
Yeah.
Learning about like Bakugo's mentor, and then not Bakugo's mentor, like All Might's mentor. Learning about All Might's past, and his history with All for One, and how epic of a villain All for One really is. Not to mention learning just how old All for One has to be at this point too. So just like All Might is past his prime, All for One is probably well past his prime. And like a show that's more a show that's like focused heavily on the students who are coming up to be heroes. For them to take time out for this arc to focus on this seasoned hero versus like this epic, like damn near legendary villain, because this guy has been like the source of numerous crimes over like maybe over a century or so.
Yeah.
And
I mean, he's the
seeing it
true
all
end all.
culminate in
Yeah.
probably what is the most epic fight and shonen I've seen in a long time. It was a great payoff, a great overall season. I thought pacing was great.
And for
Seeing
me, I think
hmm,
this is the climax, the pinnacle of the show up to this point. And this was, remember, this is episode 50. I also want to mention this is the end of the first saga of the show. So the first saga is, as it listed here in the wiki and as the manga kind of lays it out, the first saga is just the setup, the beginning saga of, setting up everything. And this is the end of the first saga. Episode 50 is where the symbol of peace is basically effectively retired and One for All is defeated. So it really changes
all for
everything.
one.
Yeah. And this is like kind of the pinnacle of the show. The show almost could end here. And I think the show's really been downhill since here. I really do.
No, the show does have. I mean, this for me was the climax so far as well. But the show doesn't really go downhill.
It
It
doesn't
just
necessarily
doesn't really
drop.
surpass this
It
point
doesn't get
yet.
back to this point. I mean, there was some moments which now we'll just move on to the next part. So the Rise of the Villain saga. That's the saga that the manga is currently in, and that's the saga that the anime is currently in. So this is the next saga in the show, which maybe there's another one after that, I don't know. But basically this starts at episode 51 through 62 and the first arc is the provisional hero. This is the full license exam arc.
And that's when you get introduced to Inasa, and him and Todoroki have this whole rivalry going on, which
Yeah. And this is where we get to
he was an all
see
right character, but I think his whole reasoning, his whole motivation for, well, whole purpose for like not liking Todoroki was kind of stupid.
yeah,
It was
and
really stupid,
to
and it just
me
made you like, like, dude, why?
this arc, I mean, there's some stuff to it, but you get introduced to the big three. I'm trying to think of anything else to note. I mean, this is where Bakugo learns about Deku's quirk isn't his. That's another big one. They end up getting their temporary
That
licenses or whatever. So that was cool, right?
Yeah, and you get introduced to like a few like minor characters that
Which arc was
hopefully later on will
which
play a bigger
arc?
role.
When did Deku get trained by what's his name?
Oh, Gran Torino.
Yeah, what arc was that?
Um,
I'm trying to remember where that happened. I'm trying to like
that
trace
was
back.
during like when they went on their student
I know,
internships.
but I don't know what arc that is.
I don't really remember off the top of my head either.
Was that before or after this licensing?
I
Oh wait,
think
it's after. It's after. Okay, so yeah, I was reading the next arc. So okay, so that was episode 51 through 62. So they're just prepping to take the license exam, and then the finale.
Well, actually, didn't like because Deku didn't he like have his fight with Stain while he was training with the Gran Torino?
Yeah, he did actually. Well,
Yeah.
that was because before that's when he first met him and trained with him. That's right. That makes more sense. So that was
Yeah, because
way
Gran
back.
Torino,
That's where he learned
was responding to like the Nomu attacking and stuff
Yeah.
when Deku was like looking for.
That was after the where he lost against Bakugo. That's when he did the training after that. After the
Yeah.
first tournament arc. That's when that happened. And then the second arc, they get their provisional licensing, and that's when the freshmen. It's during summer. That's the next arc after this. The Hasasaki arc or whatever. This is where they do the internships and Meteora, fucking Deku. I can't ever say his name. He tries to get Sir Night Eye to be his internship. And
Sir Night Eye accepts because he wants Deku to fail.
62 through 70. 78. So it's a fucking super duper long arc, super duper fucking mega long arc, and man, this is where we get introduced some pretty important characters. We get way more into the League of Villains, and we get introduced to, what's his name? Fucking Overhaul. and
Yes.
we get the
And Overhaul, actually,
we
I
get
I liked Overhaul's quirk. I liked him like maybe from like a villain point of view, but
well
he's
my
not really a villain. I think should return because he doesn't have any staying power.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the bulk
So
of the last season, season 4, that was this. That's what this was all season 4, and really, like when I talked about the degrading quality of the show, it's really just gone. It's been so slow. I mean, we those two arcs, the Provisioning Hero License Exam arc and this arc, they're good, and they end with Deku, using fucking what's her name, the little kid with the power.
Airy,
Eri, the most important character in the show, who people theorize is the most important character ever. Um,
I think those theories are bullshit. I'm just
well,
gonna put that out there.
well, they're saying that when she masters her power, she can like basically take all the quirks away from everybody. So
Yeah, we don't need that
and
happening
cure
though.
cure the world or whatever.
No,
Um,
no.
but
I think something entirely different than what people
I
theorize is
mean,
actually gonna happen.
so this episode, when you talked about him not, getting bullshit power out of nowhere, this is him getting bullshit power out of nowhere, allowing him to go way beyond his limits, stronger than he possibly
Well,
could.
he didn't get this bullshit power out of nowhere.
Oh, okay.
He had to have that at that point
Deus
because
Machina,
like it was the only way
girl.
to keep her from losing.
Yeah,
complete
Deus
control.
Machina, little girl, basically.
Yes.
If this was even if he did what All Might did and went his full ability, he would have died in that fight. But he had her to keep him alive. So I'm just saying that was pretty weak, in my opinion. That he had to have her.
Would you rather Deku just get infinite power with no repercussions that he keeps the rest of the show?
I rather there have been more consequences to that.
Like Deku has been like he has already suffered some serious consequences from
Yeah.
like 100%. His arms are permanently scarred. Like
But
every time you see his arms now, they are permanently scarred.
But I mean, overall, this arc to me, it was when I started to care less about the show. It had some really good
This
moments,
arc for me
but it
made
really
me really care more about other
it
characters.
really
like,
dragged on. 62 to 78. It's the longest arc I think of the whole show. 17 episodes long. Yeah, longest arc of the whole show. It's really where I checked out a little bit and stopped caring as much. I mean,
yeah, but this is where you really get to see Mirio at his best.
Yeah.
Mirio and Tamajiki.
yeah, we see the big
Like
three.
they totally shine his arc. One thing that I was really upset about is that we don't get to see more of Nejire.
Yeah.
I wanted to see her really just go all out in a fight herself. You see Tamajiki go all out in a fight, and it's awesome. You see Mirio really go all out against Overhaul, and it was an epic fight.
Yeah.
I like the fight between Mirio and Overhaul more than the
But-
fight between Deku and Overhaul.
My thing is, I really didn't like him losing so
I
badly.
didn't like him losing either. I wanted Mirio to take out Overhaul by himself.
Yeah.
I one thing I don't like about Shonen is they really don't let other characters other than the main character get the final spotlight moment. That
Yeah.
moment was Mirio's. Mirio could have taken out Overhaul by himself, but
And then
Mirio,
he ends up
in
losing his
heroic
powers
fashion,
because of
he was willing to give up his quirk in order to save Eri.
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, Mirio ended up being the overall hero of that arc, even if Midoriya was the one who eventually beat Overhaul.
Yeah, but he needed help to do it. And then he also lost his powers, which is another thing we didn't really talk about too much. Is this whole organization's they've took her and they got the ability to get rid of quirks permanently, from what we know. She's apparently going to be able to get a cure for that eventually. It's whatever. Yeah. So I mean, her as a character is pretty overpowered. Didn't really like her existing in this universe. It's almost as bad as the time travel power from Charlotte. Not quite.
Which brings me back to like Charlotte, because
Not quite
remember
as
back
bad.
when we did the episode on Charlotte.
Yeah,
Back when we did the episode on Charlotte, I had a theory on Charlotte. Do you remember that?
that they were connected. Yeah.
Yes, I theorized that like Charlotte like took place maybe like 100 or so plus years either before or after My Hero.
So if the comic,
Actually, I think maybe it was before, because I think that all the quirks from My Hero are a result of that comet that gave the Charlotte comet that gave those powers to the people in Charlotte.
Okay.
So
Well,
yeah, the theory makes sense.
well,
And I'm thinking that the main character, what was the main character's name in Charlotte?
let me
Can't
tell you
can't remember his name, but I
how the
think that
quirk makes
eventually
sense.
he grows up to become All for One.
Well, let me tell you how that could potentially make sense. Could potentially make sense if, I mean, the thing that started the powers in this universe was that baby being born. So if the comet gave that baby powers after it came back the last time, and then the baby gave everyone powers, that would make more sense. Is that what happened?
Or maybe like My Hero is like on another planet within the same universe, and that comet, as it passed by the Earth and Charlotte, it like it keeps going on a trajectory toward the planet in My Hero.
And that's when that happens. Okay, I
Yeah,
thought the theory is sound. You can't say that's not a solid theory. I give it a 10 out of 10.
awesome. I as well give it a 10 out of 10. I think it would be nice to see some more people write some more blogs and fan fiction on this theory, because this theory is solid. Um, but yeah, that's my theory on like My Hero. And overall, that arc with Overhaul I thought was good, but it could have been better. Like I
I
said, I
thought
wanted
it
to see
was.
more Mirio time. I wanted to see Nejire got robbed of her screen time, and I wanted to see more Nejire. It would have been great to see Sue go out a little bit more in fights during that saga too. But you don't even get to see Sue really fight much until like the end. Well, actually, you don't even get to see her fight at the end
I
either.
don't remember her being in the arc at all. That's how irrelevant
She
she
was
is.
there. She was
All right,
definitely there.
all right, but let's keep moving on because we're at an hour and 21 and we got a lot to cover. So we've already talked about that last arc. That's the longest arc in like the manga and in the anime so far. It's super long. It's where I checked out for a long time in the manga and in the anime. But then after that, we have the Remedial Course arc, which is where Bakugo and what's his name, they all fail, and they have to hang out with the little kids for 3 episodes.
I actually like that that arc.
Of course you did.
Um,
And then Endeavor and All Might have a
what do
talk
you mean? Of course I
where
did.
Endeavor,
It was a great
where
arc.
Endeavor's like, "Oh my, what does it take to be a real hero?" And All
I
Might's
think
like,
that was an important question to ask. Like Endeavor is like really starting to come to terms with the fact that All Might is gone and that Endeavor has to step up to the plate. It also like gives you more of an introduction to Cammy. Because remember, she during the original like licensing exam, like Toga had transformed into her, and she had just, I guess, got knocked out or something. So
yeah,
we didn't get to see much of her as a character up until this point.
yeah,
So I like Cammy. I think she was a great character. She's also obviously going onto the waifu list. I mean that's a given. Um, yeah.
yeah. So overall, not much to say. I mean, just
And,
a
and
kind of,
also seeing, um, uh, I mean, you're seeing Bakugo become more of a leader.
yeah, and it
So
kind of feels like a filler arc, but it's actually in the manga, so
yeah, it's a very important arc in my opinion.
yeah, 3 episodes long, definitely.
Yeah.
Um,
And Gang Orca, Gang Orca is kind of a badass. I want to see more of Gang Orca.
yeah. All right. Well, and then so then there was the UA School Festival arc, 81 through 86. So this is
Yeah.
where this is basically the downtime. This is like
This is the Jiro arc
this is 81 through 86. So 6 episodes. This is basically just a regular festival type of thing where they're just all fucking around.
slash the Jiro arc.
Doing nothing important of any note to anyone. Pure filler. As if the
Well,
show.
well, have you forgotten about what's his name,
Well,
Gentleman?
yeah. Well, that happens in this arc, and it's really slow. Basically, all momentum of the show at this point has absolutely halted after the 3 episode last arc, and then this 6 episode arc. All the momentum from the overhaul arc is at a zero now. We're moving at a slow baby pace.
But this is the rise of Jiro though.
Yeah, and so
And Mina is like apparently really good at breakdancing, which we kind of knew. We kind of knew that kind of goes into her fighting style in general.
yeah, And then after that, 87 to 88. So this is
Is the Endeavor Goes Plus mother
yeah,
flipping
and this
Ultra
is
arc.
actually the beginning of the Pro Hero arc. For some reason in the anime, they decided to do it at the end of the season, even though it's the start of the arc, basically. So obviously, we're introduced the idea that there's more no and Endeavor's put to the test,
And Endeavor passes with flying colors.
and then
And we also learned that Endeavor can freaking fly.
and then we're left
And
off.
then we're introduced to Prominence Burn, which is epic.
Yeah.
It is epic.
And we're introduced to Hawks.
I would say Prominence Burn is like on par with United States of Smash.
Yeah, and we're introduced to Hawks, of course.
Yes, and Hawks is way more badass than I originally thought. Because the first time I saw Hawks, I thought his only ability was like to fly, and I thought maybe he was like Archangel or something.
Yeah, but anyway, so I mean that's a whole covering of the arcs. I mean, I think up to 50. If it was only up to 50, I mean, I think this show would have been perfect. But after 50, like I was a way bigger fan at episode 50 than I am now. I would say the last 38 episodes have really
in a way, it's good for an anime to like have like these like slower phases.
My thing is
give us time to breathe in between these more epic arcs.
Because
Dragon Ball Z does it.
I was reading the manga at the time, so I knew all of this was coming, and the overhaul arc is really long in the manga. So I predicted all of this coming, but geez, in the anime, it just maybe it's because I had already read it, so I knew it was going to happen, that it drag it down even further, because before, I think I wasn't caught up with the manga until episode 50, and then I caught up with the manga. So it just kind of ruined my enjoyment of the show. And yeah, I'm really not excited for the new season. Of course, I'm going to watch it when it comes out, but I'm not like sitting here antsing for it. There's nothing.
I'm antsing for it because we're about to learn more about like the origins of One for All.
Yeah, I mean,
I think
there's a lot to come, but I mean, there's nothing I'm sitting here. I'm like, oh man, I gotta know what happens next. I mean, they didn't leave us off on a good enough cliffhanger to really make us enticed. I mean, this is a long-running series, episode 88. I mean, the first 50 episodes were way better, though, than the last 38. That's all I have to say about just kind of...
But overall, it was great.
Story progression.
It was overall great. And I'll say it again, Deku, while he's definitely far from the best main character in a shonen I've seen so far,
yeah,
he is a step above what I typically think of a shonen main character being.
Yeah, definitely.
All
right, well,
and I think all the supporting characters, like the time they get on screen, I think that it's time well spent on those characters.
Yeah.
I don't really have many characters that I don't like, and this show has some top tier waifus. We will be making a list of waifus for My Hero. Actually, we need to do a poll for that.
We might do like a tier list or something. We'll talk about that after. But I want to just kind of move on here. So we talked about pretty much the overall story, went through all the arcs. We talked about all the characters. We didn't go in too depth to a lot of the individual villains, but obviously there's still a lot more to come with them.
We can do that real quick. There's not a whole lot of villains right now anyway that we can really even talk much about. You have Mr. Compress, which he has. While he's probably had the most screen time of one of the villains outside of the main villains, Mr. Compress, we don't even really know much about him. You have what's the name of the teleport dude? Can't remember his name. Save my life.
Cure?
Yeah, I think it's
something like that.
Yeah. We don't really know much about him either, other than he's just supporting Shigaraki.
Yeah.
So yeah, Kurogiri.
Yeah.
And there's a villain that was introduced like toward the end of like the last season, which was the Gigatomachia, that giant dude.
Yeah.
We don't know what role he's gonna play, but we know he's gonna be in some major role in the next season. And like All for One, while a pretty epic villain, we still haven't really gotten to know much about his past other than that his brother is the one who started One for All and gave all is basically the guy who gave All Might and Midoriya their quirks and stuff.
Yeah.
So I want to know more about that, and hopefully later on we're going to find out more about All for One's relationship with his brother and how it led to One for All getting created in the first place. Shigaraki has. We need to talk more about Shigaraki, though.
I definitely want to talk
Tomura
about more.
Shigaraki has like one of the most interesting backstory. Interesting in that it's really messed up backstories of any villain I've ever seen, and it's almost tragic. He's a villain simply because his quirk made him one. I mean, when you think about it, he's only like as messed up as he is because he accidentally killed his entire family because of a quirk that like literally nobody could have control over. At least a kid at that age and stuff. So
Yep.
like he literally he's kind of a victim in all of this, and that after murdering his own family by accident, like because he can't control he wasn't able to control his quirk. He gets raised and pretty much groomed to be a villain by All for One his entire life after that, and All for One doing all of this just to spite Shimamura and All Might. So in a way, like Tomura is like a really diabolical and like evil villain. He does some crap that makes you really hate him until you realize that he never really had a choice in any of the things that led to where he is in life now. So I think that was a very unique and very interesting like backstory for a villain. It makes you sympathize with the villain while also detesting the actions that he's currently taking. The rest of the League of Villains, Himiko Toga, she's probably the most interesting of the rest of the League of Villains. I think, when it comes to League of Villains, she's always going to probably be ranked at the top of any of those lists.
Yeah.
Twice's backstory is interesting. Also interesting in that Twice doesn't even know if he is because Twice has the ability to make duplicates of stuff, and because he's made so many duplicates of himself, he doesn't even know if he's the original of himself, and that's scary.
Yeah, I mean, it really probably wouldn't make a difference though. But I wanted to talk about the villain some too. I mean, Shigaraki. I hate Shigaraki. I think he's a shitty character. I don't agree with you at all with your you feel sorry for him. I mean, not really. I mean, we don't know the specifics. Well, at least in the anime, we don't know as much. But him as a character, he's boring, he's stupid, and so far up in the anime, he's never done anything significant to really make him a leader type character. He's never made any decisions. He just sucks. He's been a failure his entire time. The only reason All for One picked him is because he's fucking related to the previous user of the One for All, so that's really it. He's just related by blood, and that's the only significance he had to All for One, so that's why he chose him, to make him, the way he is. So, what else is there to say?
I gotta disagree with you entirely on Shigaraki. He's
he hasn't done anything worth a damn.
He's got a tragic past, and as a villain, he has done some very villainous things.
He hasn't done shit. He hasn't done anything. Who did he kill? Who did he kill? Who did he kill? Who did he kill?
Well, he did kill one of
who?
Overhaul's henchman.
Oh, he killed it. He killed an evil henchman. Who else did he kill? Who else? What else did he do?
He took Overhaul's arms. He took Overhaul's quirk.
That's a villain.
I mean, you haven't seen the latest movie, but he does.
The movie's the movie doesn't count as canon, so
the movie counts. The movie absolutely counts. It counts. It counts. It counts. It counts. It counts.
Doesn't count.
Doesn't. And count. He did capture Bakugo. He's a villain, but what makes him tragic though is he's not really a villain because he had the moral he had like a moral choice at any point, and he just chose the wrong thing. It's like he was always given the wrong choice.
No, he was just
So,
manipulated by All for One from the beginning to become evil.
and that's what makes him more of a
I don't
sympathetic,
think
tragic
so,
villain to me.
because then he also, his whole point in life is to try to prove himself to All for One, but he's a disappointment that All for One doesn't give up on him. But I mean, his relationship with All for One is pretty much identical to Deku's with All Might's, and it's obviously supposed to be exactly paralleled, that they both have the same type of relationship where one constantly fails and they strive to be best, and then by the end of the series they're both gonna master it and surpass their masters. I mean, that's the whole point. But at this point in the series, he's sucked. He's done nothing of note. All of his henchmen are much more,
We're
you know,
still really early on in the series, though.
not really. We're not that far behind the manga. I don't think this is going to be a super long running show. I don't think it's going to nearly last as long as some of the other shonens.
I think it's gonna go 1,000 episodes like One Piece.
I see maybe 300 something with this show.
Nah, I'm thinking 1,000.
I really don't want it to go much longer.
I didn't want One Piece to go 1,000
we
episodes,
have
but here
to
we are.
think. Technically, we're still in the second semester right now, so we still have 2 more semesters. So we're probably around 50% of the way through the show right now, I would say.
I would say, I mean, the show does. I mean, like after My Hero Academia, you could have My Hero, like
Well,
job life or
in
career or
in
whatever.
the anime,
Then maybe My Hero retirement.
I think in the anime it's probably maybe like 30 something percent. In the manga it's probably in the 40s, I'd say, as far as, well, 40-50%. But regardless, I mean, there's definitely a lot more story to go, so I'm hoping better things from him. Toga, I mean, she's okay.
Epic.
She's probably my favorite female character in the show, just because I like crazy bitches.
Oh yeah, and she's definitely going on the waifu list.
Yeah, I mean, I like crazy chicks. She's cool. Dabi's really cool. I like his blue fire powers. Twice is cool. All the rest suck. I hate every other character on the League of Villains.
Well, I agree with you there. We haven't really
I
seen
mean,
the other League of like
we're
members of
definitely
League of
gonna get
Villains really
more
do much.
of the villains and kind of more stuff with them. But most of them, their motivations are kind of iffy, especially like the people that join just because of what's his name?
Stain.
Stain, yeah. I mean,
Like Spinner is
'cause,
basically trying to
yeah,
be Stain.
because again, I disagree. I agree with his philosophy and what he was trying to do, but especially these people, what they're doing to like live up to his legacy is stupid. Um, Other than that, I mean, there's not really many more characters to go over. I mean, there obviously was the Yakuza characters, but the only one who mattered was Overhaul. All the rest were basically filler. I mean,
I agree with that 100%.
I don't remember. That's one of the reasons the arc sucked, is they only had really one villain, and I mean, some of the fights were kind of interesting and cool, but the characters weren't super memorable, or you're like, oh man, I know a lot about this character. That's a remarkable villain. It was just kind of more about the heroes beating the villains and what they had to go through to get there. That's the whole point of that arc. But other than that, I mean, anything else to say in the story and characters, or do you just want to move on to the best moments here?
I think we could move on
I mean,
to best moment.
obviously, there's so much shit to talk about. I mean, we went over 4 fucking seasons worth of shit. We went over all the characters. There's a whole bunch of shit we missed, but I mean, as the show continues, we'll do it season by season if we do podcast over it, so it won't be this kind of crammed of information and stuff to go over. I mean, there's so much shit we missed, but yeah, I mean, let's just move over to best moments and aspects, though. So really, I'm just gonna start it off. Best moment for me, obviously, episode 50, or right in that range, when All for One and All Might went toe to toe, and that was the best moment of the show by far. Nothing else has come close. I mean, the fight with Overhaul was really awesome, seeing Deku do that, but again, it wasn't all him, and it was just kind of anticlimactic, to say the least. He didn't even, I mean, both of those fights kind of were anticlimactic, but the moment where All Might like stands up afterwards in his hero form and like the world goes fucking crazy, I mean,
I mean, like it was that same sense of epicness you got when Endeavor did plus Ultra Prominence Burn.
That was pretty decent, but I mean, that fight was like top 10 anime fights almost. Like, it was that good. Like, as far as shonen, it was definitely up there. I see how it could be on most people's like list, and that's saying a lot. I mean, there's a lot of really good anime fights, but that was pretty fucking epic. And then
I'll agree with that.
the best aspect of the show, character development, I think is lacking in the show to where I need it to be. So that's not the best aspect. I think the best aspect is just probably the world of the show. It's just kind of the idea of the show is the best thing it has going for it. If they could just capitalize on that and focus more on the character development and really show us like tragedy and death, and obviously we're still early in the show, but I just want to see more, something happen significant. So far, most of the shit that's happened isn't super unique and super like, oh man, this is crazy that this happened. We all knew from the beginning of the show that All For Might, or fucking All For One was
We're gonna make a character called All For Might.
All For One would be taken down probably, and All Might would retire. Obviously, we pretty much knew those things coming up to that final fight, around episode 50 or whatever. So, yeah, I mean the music's pretty epic. Animation, I don't think is anything special. And that's really my overall best impressions and best aspects is really just the story, the world building itself, and yeah, there's a lot of things that it needs to improve on though. What do you think?
I don't really entirely agree with that. I think the show does a lot of what it's trying to execute about as well as any show possibly could.
I disagree.
I
You haven't
mean,
seen One Piece. I'm just saying.
uh, I do think that there's like a lot more that I would like to see that they're not showing. Obviously, I want to see more Sue. Um, I but not just Sue. Like a lot of the background characters, I want to see get like more like not just screen time, but like center focus time, and maybe like not have Deku being this almighty savior in every arc like what they're doing right now, but like giving other characters a chance to shine as well. It's something that's, I mean, it's something that's that's like pretty common to Shonen though, so I don't know if this is going to move away from that. But that aside, I think every like this show like executes on a lot of like story points, character development,
Sure.
plot. It keeps it interesting, keeps it fresh. It takes time to like really like address like subtle nuances inside of like the plot.
I don't think it
Um,
does that.
I think the overall this show is really just taken shonen to another level. It goes beyond Naruto. It goes beyond
I don't think
like
so. Naruto's still
it,
way better.
uh, Naruto. Like overall Naruto was better, but Naruto was also 300 or 400 plus episodes
I'm saying
more and still
Naruto.
going.
I think Naruto
But
at episode 80 was better. Or
I
88
think
was
by the
better
time
than
My
this.
Hero hits episode 300, it's going to surpass what Naruto was at episode 300.
Definitely no, because the pain arc happened around that time.
Yeah, but I think seeing where this show is going right now, they have the potential to pass up Naruto.
I would disagree with that. I think they're just two different beasts entirely. I think it's fair to compare certain aspects, but what Naruto does...
it would be like it's really hard not to compare it to Naruto because right now the show is following in the footsteps of Naruto to a T, and that's both a advantage and disadvantage of it because obviously Naruto worked really well, but at the same time, like I think once this show starts to build separate itself from all these other shows and starts to really build its own identity,
which I don't think it's ever going to do.
I think it's going to do it. I think it's going to do it.
I think that it's going to kind of progress. I mean, really, as this point, did you have any other best moments and aspects? Because if not, we can just wrap it up with final thoughts. I mean, that's kind of what we're doing now anyways. Anything else you want to really emphasize that you thought? Do you agree with me on the best moment?
I do agree with you on the best moment.
So what's the best? What would you say is the best aspect then?
Best aspect of the entire show?
Yeah.
United States of Smash.
All right, perfect. All right, well, we're in final thoughts now. So, final thoughts. You can go ahead and go first. I mean, you're basically
Epic.
sharing it.
Epic.
Epic. That's it?
Yep.
All right. Well, I would say first 50 episodes, almost epic. Last 50 episodes, roughly, not so epic. So really, if once we come back to the next season, if we really pick up, which from the manga, there's some things that happen are interesting. I do think it might be slower going forward, and that's why I'm not super excited about the future of the show right now. There's nothing super like from what I've seen that I really want to see. So for me, that's kind of the biggest gripe I have with the show is that I don't look forward to seeing it when it comes back. I definitely will watch it, and I definitely will watch it day one, but it's not something I'm like dying to see. I've been repeating that the whole show. So with all of that said, I think it's definitely worth watching if you enjoy shonen. If you do not like shonen, you'll hate this show. It will be dog shit. The show doesn't add anything else outside of the shonen genre. I disagree with you completely on what you were saying before. It doesn't add anything new so far. I think it potentially could, but the characters at the way that they're developed and what development they could potentially have, I just feel like there's not enough difference in where the character started and where the character's going to end up. I mean, the literally narration of the show is him saying how he is the greatest hero. So that already spoils the fact that he becomes the greatest hero. At least with other shonen,
it could be that he thinks he's the greatest hero in his own mind, though.
I'm just saying, in other like we kind of know.
I mean,
where
like I
we're
wake up
going
in the
with this
morning
show.
thinking that I'm gonna be the greatest hero in the universe, but
I'm
at the end of the day,
but I'm saying this is the story of how he became the greatest hero in his school days of becoming the greatest hero. That's what the show is. It is nowhere near like the journey that some other shonen characters go on and what they become and how different they become. I'm sure he'll change by the end of it. Maybe if there was a time skip, I think that could be really significant if they actually did go beyond the school years.
Most shonens have a time skip.
But if they actually go beyond the school years and we see this show outside of the school years, I really think that could work well if they actually set it up well enough. But as of right now, where the show is, I just don't see it. And if it could either fall flat or it could, take itself to the next height like other shows do. Usually after time skips, mind you. After this point, I mean, you got to remember, Naruto technically had its time skip after episode 120, 130, at least the anime itself. That's when the original content stopped.
Like an episode like 190 something.
No.
Before.
No, it was 120. Then there's like 80 episodes of filler, which they just did for the manga could catch up, which they might have to end up doing for this. But I think they're better off putting it on break if they're going to choose to do a lot of filler content like Naruto did. I don't think they're going to do that, but if they did, that'd really piss me off. I'm really hoping that they don't do that.
Well, you could at least say that Naruto didn't do as much filler as Bleach did.
Yeah.
Bleach devoted entire seasons to nothing but filler.
Yeah. I don't know.
Naruto would sprinkle filler episodes inside of seasons. Bleach did filler seasons.
Yeah. I mean, they did that in Naruto too, though, because literally from episode like 120 or 130 to episode 220, it's almost 100 episodes of filler that Naruto does. It's absolutely ridiculous, and hopefully this show will avoid that terrible fucking fate. It's really what I'm hoping for, and if they can do that, and if they do a time skip or something like that, and another 50 or 60 episodes like Naruto did, then maybe they could redeem themselves. If not, then I don't know. One Piece waited till like episode like 400 or 500 till it did its time skip. So who fucking knows, right?
You and this One Piece.
I know. I'm sorry. I hate to be in that guy, but when I talk about shonen, you got to talk about the king of shonen, the ultimate shonen.
Yeah, the king of shonen I've established earlier is Dr. Stone.
I swear to God. Anyways, we're gonna do my anime list. What is your final score on my anime list scale? What would you rate this show? Go ahead. Tell me what you're thinking.
See, the thing is, and this is why I right now this would be difficult to do, is because every other anime we've rated so far is finished.
Yeah.
So we were able to rate the overall show, but
we're rating
right now
it up
we don't know
4.
where the show is going. So I'm only going to rate it based on where it is right now, and I'm pretty sure in a year my opinion might change on this.
As you should.
For right now, I would say it is a solid 8.
You're going for 8. I guess I'll go for an 8 too. I think it's not quite a 9. Definitely not a 10 right now. It could eventually become those higher ratings, but 8 I think is fair. 7 I think is just a little bit too low. I'd feel bad if we gave it a 7, especially in comparison to the other shows we gave. So
I mean, we spent so much. Like, this is the first time we didn't really spend any time going over the production values in this show.
it's
But like, as
okay.
far as I mean, like, that's just shows just how much this show had as far as plot,
No,
characters,
it just
like
shows we had
the
4 seasons to
background.
cover.
Huh?
It just shows there was 4 seasons to cover instead of 1 season to cover. Don't like
But
equate.
I like I do just want to say, and final thoughts. It's not changing my score or anything, but like the music, in particular. I mean, you remember a lot of these fight scenes. They had this great music, the great opening and intros and stuff in the show. Like, some of the best animation I've seen in some of the fight scenes. Is particularly those epic fights, like the fight between Endeavor and Anomu, All Might, All for One, Midoriya, and Overhaul. So yeah, like, the show, if it continues on this streak, I think the score will end up going up. I
Yeah,
can see
yeah,
this show ending at a 9 or 10 if it keeps this momentum going.
yeah.
But right now, I couldn't reasonably give it anything higher than 8 because it does have a lot of problems stemming from the fact that maybe it's not far enough along to address the character development issues, which was my major issue. I wanted to see more development on a lot of these other characters, and I think in order for them to do that, they would probably have to maybe go into some spin-off shows. And it's great that they're also giving us movies, even if those movies are not canon. It's great to see these movies come out because they give us more time to focus on other characters that we really care about.
Yeah. I mean,
But
I would agree with that. I think the biggest problem is the character development. So if that improves in the future, then that could really change the way the show goes. I mean, to be fair, I'd probably give the original Naruto series probably an 8 as well. And we're approaching the original Naruto series episode length in actual canon content. And that's why I'm being very critical in the comparison between the two, even though, like I said, it's not fair, especially with the sequel to Naruto, because you can't really compare the sequel of Naruto to what this is. Just in case
oh
this
yeah,
shows,
you just can't compare this to Shippuden at all.
yeah,
I'll agree with
you
that.
can
Like,
compare it to the
Shippuden was on
original,
another level.
yeah, original Naruto,
In fact, like it's been so
but
long since I watched Naruto, so most of what I remember about Naruto is Shippuden.
yeah,
Because Shippuden's kind of for like me, like where my memories of Naruto kind of start at,
yeah,
and everything else was just setting up for Shippuden. But
yeah. But I mean, that's really what this show is following. And if they take that dramatic shift and they're able to take it to a greater level, I mean, it's kind of like you can't really compare Dragon Ball to Dragon Ball Z. They're almost different tones entirely. And
they're practically different genres.
that's why I don't know if this show is going to take that same drum in like tone. Even the tone between Naruto and its sequel series, they're different tones almost. It's much more serious and dark in a lot of ways and stuff to come. And if we see more of that in the show, if we get away from that and as they get older, I really want to see more of that darkness and that evil in the world. Because so far the villains, the darkness and evil that they presented, I mean, obviously this last arc with Overhaul, they had like a little girl getting beaten, but that's probably the worst thing I've seen a villain do is abuse a little girl in this entire series.
And not to mention one other thing too.
Like I want to see a villain
One
literally
thing
just
one thing I
murdering
didn't talk
people.
about earlier, and I probably should have mentioned, is like when you were talking about the show, like moving past where it is now, and as they get older and stuff. Deku right now is still in that childlike mentality that, like, as long as he does his best and is always doing the right thing, that everything will just work out in the end. And he makes decisions based off of that mentality, which is kind of so separate away from reality that it's something to aspire to, but not something you can relate to. Whereas Mirio, you remember that episode where Mirio and Deku first run into Overhaul and Eri, and Deku wanted to save Eri then and there, but Mirio made the decision that to let them go, and now was not the time.
Yeah. Well, my thing is
Like, you could argue that, yeah, Deku was right from a moral point of view, but from a realistic point of view of what they could have accomplished in that situation, Mirio made the right decision.
Yeah.
And it's hard for like younger people to really identify with that. They're like, oh, Deku was right from the beginning, and Mirio shouldn't have stopped him. But Mirio, on top of probably saving Deku's life at that time, he probably saved Aries' life as well.
Yeah. And for me though, there hasn't been that moment where Deku as a character has truly gotten like truly lost. Like at the end of that's why the end of the original series of Naruto is so good, is because Naruto has that same mentality, but that he gets that moment where he truly loses and all of his friends lose, half of which you literally might think are dead. And it's a very traumatic fucking ending of the part one. Like everyone completely fails, like almost to that peak. Like they couldn't have failed even longer. And the same thing in One Piece. Before the time skip in One Piece, they have that same moment in One Piece. I won't spoil the details, but the characters are completely fucked. Like there are forces that come to the characters that are way beyond anything that you could even feasibly imagine, and they are fucked completely. And that's why they have to go on a time skip to really improve the characters and make sure they come back stronger and better than ever, to give them that time to develop off screen, mind you, but to come back with that maturity. I mean, I think doing this show, you know, we're in their second semester. The show has to take place in the course of the Academy days, or else it's not My Hero Academy anymore. So if they actually do a pure sequel show and they like wrap up the Academy in like the first 200 episodes, then maybe we could see something greater than that, something darker. But I just, if this show truly ends with him like at the last year of his academy and he ends up beating like, you know, Shigaraki, and like that's the end of the show, I'm gonna be very fucking disappointed.
I mean, I will, but I won't at the same time.
And then
I will because I like it's ruining the show's potential. But at
yeah,
the same time, the show like it at least it didn't at least it didn't end on a low like a low note for the show.
yeah,
I'm not saying that. No, I'm not talking about just like the ending on a positive or whatever. I'm talking about like it didn't like decrease in quality or anything.
yeah, but it won't
But my
increase in
issue with
quality.
that though, and like what you were saying earlier with Naruto, for me, Shippuden was like the drastic change in Shippuden made me care more about the characters. You remember at the beginning of like it was like toward the beginning of Shippuden when they first have their like when the Ninja Village first has their real run in with Akatsuki or whatever,
Yeah,
and Asuma dies.
yeah,
I was it was like it was probably my first time in an anime. I'll be honest with you, it was probably my first time in an anime seeing a important character die, and this is not like Dragon Ball where death literally means nothing. These characters die.
yeah.
Their lives mean something. So
And that was a huge moment in Naruto, and that did happen quite a bit into part two. So I mean, that's why.
yeah.
I mean, the only character that actually dies in the part one is the third Hokage.
Yeah,
Um,
but his death wasn't as impactful because it happened so. I mean, I think it
yeah,
happened pretty early in the show, and on top of that, he was, you know, he was already a character that was like well past his prime anyway. And then
yeah,
the third thing about that is he wasn't really a character that you got to know. Like you get to know Asuma pretty well,
yeah.
and so
There's a
like
lot of
his death,
setup with Asuma before he dies. Like he's in a lot.
yeah.
There's actually in the anime, there's a whole filler arc where he's in the filler arc. If you watch that, so
So I felt like like Naruto like the when Naruto like it hit Shippuden and they go into these darker areas and then like also going into like characters like flaws and
yeah.
really
And
just
my thing is,
breaking characters away from these
if they actually killed All Might, like
the thing is, you know what would have made me instantly raise at one point, even though I like All Might's character,
yeah,
if All Might had died during that fight with All for
yeah.
One.
But I think
That would have
I
been an
think
impactful way
I
of
think
him going out.
I think the writer purposely didn't do that because he knew that would be too tropey, and he wanted to keep All Might a little longer to teach, you know, Deku some more. But I still think by the end of the series that All Might should die. I don't think he should get out of the series alive. I don't know. Maybe it's just
I
because
think
that's
yeah,
the
I think he probably will though. I
maybe,
mean, just judging from where the show's going right now, like
but
the
to
show doesn't seem
me,
to want to get too dark.
maybe it's because like we're just in that tropey mindset, but I really do like sacrifices. I mean, you even look back
Yeah,
into like the great like tragedies. There's a reason that those stories are masterpieces in
yeah,
fiction, because that is the story arc that people like to see, is like heroes, great heroes falling and new heroes taking. That's, I mean, that's the story structure. So for the character to
and
stick around,
it's actually for that very reason that I kind of and this is I probably blasphemy to all anime fans, but screw it. I got out of Dragon Ball Z because for one thing, death doesn't mean anything, and two, like they can't seem to like pass on the torch. You're just we've been watching Goku develop as a main character since the beginning of Dragon Ball. I they've been around longer than One Piece, so
yeah,
like at this point, like I would like you're like that one moment in the Cell Saga where Gohan gets the spotlight and stuff, and then in the very next saga, Gohan is all of a sudden weaker than every other character, and I was
yeah,
like, what?
the
I guess it's back to Goku, and
what
of
they did
course,
with
it was
Gohan
back to Goku.
was fucked in that show. Like they
Yeah.
fucked Gohan so bad, and that's why, yeah. And I really, I don't know if not killing All Might was the best choice. I think it could have been more developing if he did die, because it would teach everyone that shit's real. And
Yeah, I mean, it would have it would have been a like a personal growth moment for both
yeah,
Midoriya and Bakugo, and it would have probably set up Bakugo's character for a lot more harsh
but
development because
again,
Bakugo would have probably like taken that personally that All
yeah,
Might
he
died
could have been
saving
he
him.
could have become like a villain almost even, or
Yeah,
but and then but maybe having him alive, maybe we'll have that true moment where, I mean, they kind of already hinted at it a little bit, where maybe he will save All Might, like completely save him or something, and maybe that would be a good end of his arc, which they've kind of teased that already. But until something else happens, I mean, who knows? I mean, they killed we didn't even talk about how they killed
Night Eye.
Night Eye, yeah. So I mean,
Yeah,
they did kill
I mean,
him.
the
So
thing is, we didn't even get enough time to really know Night Eye, so his death really didn't impact me much.
yeah, and then we did learn that his prediction power predicted All Might died. I mean, that was an interesting story thread there, and that fate can be changed. But I mean, again, that's still kind of tropey. That there's that is kind of like his power kind of is the equivalent of Naruto, the Toad of Prophecy, saying that he's the prophecy child, or or whatever. So they just added prophecy into the show for no fucking reason. You've talked about how you personally hate prophecy in shows when they say this character's destined to do great shit. Basically, by having Deku beat his prophecy, Deku is set up as a character who can break prophecy, which is kind of weird, I guess. I don't know.
But I think, right now it's too early to tell where they're going to take this, and I don't want to make any assumptions that could like ruin my expectations for the show.
Hmm.
Um, they could go in a completely different direction that surprises me and gives me that impact moment. But I think My Hero, it's the fact that it's also probably the fact that the show is still ongoing. A lot of the other anime that we've talked about before this had some really like a moment that really kind of like impacted you and changed the way you viewed the show for the rest of your time viewing it.
Yeah.
Like in Erased, when yeah, the main character actually like he goes into that coma after you know doing that whole
There's like a sacrifice,
reveal
and
thing.
most of the shows we've watched,
Um,
there's been some type of sacrifice moment,
yeah,
and
in Charlotte when the main character literally sacrifices his sanity.
yeah,
Like we've like seen like stuff where like a true moment that it like impacts the character can also impact you. And uh right now like that moment, the top moment in the show as far as emotional impact was definitely the fight with All Might and All for One, but it doesn't leave you with like that sense of a lasting impact because not only does All Might not die, All for One doesn't die, and like basically nothing changes after that. Like All Might was still like pretty much retired from being a hero before that. He just officially retired after that fight. So it's like nothing in the show really changed. It's just their like the way the characters view the events changed.
Yeah.
And
But I mean, with all that said, we're kind of over 2 hours here. We really,
oh
honestly,
yeah, yeah.
went at
Well,
this one. So we talked a lot about everything. So we did decide on a final score of 8 for the My Anime list. That's what we're gonna set it as. Overall, I mean, great show. And yeah, I really don't have much else to say. We said it all.
yeah.
What?
We
So
said it all. All of
we
it's been said. There's
yeah.
nothing left to be said.
Yeah, until the next season, which from now on we'll probably cover the season at the end of the season as we
Yeah,
go
rather than
forward.
covering 4 seasons
Yeah,
in one show.
because this has been absolutely exhausting and more than I thought it would be, and I still feel like we missed everything. But so what are we doing next week for the podcast?
Saikano,
Saikano.
which
So
we were supposed to do 3 months ago.
So Noob over there is finally going to get around off his lazy ass to finish Saikano.
No, noob, nothing. Solo's finally going to finish an anime.
And then, yeah, I know. We've been off for this whole time. I have not watched any anime the entire time we've been off, pretty much. And yeah, that's why we decided to come back with My Hero. One that we've already seen, but we'll be back next week with Saikano. So we'll see you guys then.
Yep. Peace out.